You are now tuned into the First and 10 podcast brought to you by OXP Media. Of course, I'm your host, Brandon Graham, and I cannot wait to get into this today. This is WildCard Weekend. This is the first time I'm actually recording myself when it comes to this podcast by myself, just because I have to get it out there, and I missed, of course, putting this in the YouTube streets. I get great content, great feedback back from a number of you. We'll get into it. We're going to talk about football today. Let me get right into it. Very soon, we're going to have some guests onto the show. I just wanted them to get through their seasons. And, of course, a lot going on behind the scenes. But shout out to Mike Roach. Shout out to the Six Man Podcast. We just released a nice episode yesterday. And, of course, we're going to have some more coming through very, very soon. Once again, I'm Brandon Graham. I'm back again. Listen, this is the most interesting podcast in the world. I don't care what you say. I don't care. This is great. Let's get right into it. I want to first give a shout out to college football. College football has been incredible over the past few years. The Georgia Bulldogs defeating the Alabama Crimson Tide in the national championship in Indianapolis. Great game, right? Stetson Bennett, the walk-on, got to Georgia in his first year. Justin Fields is there, transfers out, goes to JUCO, comes right back, ends up in Georgia, ends up actually doing a really, really good job and getting the starting job over JT Daniels, and then of course playing very well in the championship game. Incredible story, incredible outcome. I'm really proud of that team. This was their year. They had to do something. There was no mistake they can make. Alabama is going to be even better next year. Bryce Young is coming back. You got a lot of the receivers coming back as well too. The O-line's coming back as well. They're going to be great. They're going to retool. That's what they do. They retool. They never get worse. And think about it. Mac Jones, Nick Saban, Devontae Smith, Najee Harris, Jalen Waddle, not really playing too much, but having that team last year beat the Ohio State Buckeyes in the national championship with Justin Fields, actually demolishing the team that I thought was actually going to win because they came back from the year before after getting beat by Clemson. Once again, Saban has all the talent in the world in that team. They recruit better than everyone else. The SEC runs college football, and it will just continue to do that for quite a long period of time, especially with Oklahoma going to the SEC along with Texas. So it's going to see more and more things change over the years. But what I feel, I spoke about this yesterday on Elias's podcast, 94 by 50 podcast, which you can see very soon, being released today. I'm going to post that on our OXP Media page as well too. We broke down all the NFL games. We broke down the college football playoffs as well too. It was a great podcast. But what I said over there too is that I'm not too much of a fan of the expansion of college football when it comes to having more teams in the college football playoff. Don't think it's right. Keep it as it is. Let it go through. Every week is like a playoff already. It's exciting. We don't necessarily want to see two-game loss Alabama or two-game loss Ohio State in the playoff. Right? They should, obviously pay their consequences. There should be consequences for losing those games, and that's why college football is exciting. That's why everyone tunes in every single week to see if these teams are going to survive. That's why teams can actually battle back after losing one game and still get in the national championship and still get the SEC championship and still win. Exciting, great football. Cannot wait. Of course, cannot wait for next year as well too. Just love football. Love it in general. And Ohio State couldn't do it this year, but they have a great team coming back. Shout out to the OHIO. Shout out to them, man. They did a great job. Of course, Ryan Day's going to come back, retool CJ Stroud, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. You're going to have Marvin Harrison Jr. You're going to have Emeka Egbuka. You have Henderson, the running back, coming back. You have a great O-line coming back. Defense coming back as well, too. They should be really good next year. But, of course, the SEC champions in Alabama Crimson Tide are still going to be at the top of that list. It's going to be really hard to knock them off next year. And even Georgia might be kind of tough to knock off with JT Daniels staying. So it's going to be a lot. But I want to get into our wildcard weekend, our rapid wildcard weekend. This is interesting. Usually I record audio, but I love doing this video stuff too to show you the personality. But I'm going to start in the NFL wildcard season. It's kind of sad. We only have about 5 solid more weeks left of NFL football, but it's going to be great. And it's going to be a wild ride, a lot of drama, as you've seen last week with the Las Vegas Raiders playing the LA Chargers. Great game down to the wire. Almost knocked off the Pittsburgh Steelers with taking a knee and, ending that game. But, you play to win the game. You don't tie a game. and both teams make, like, it doesn't happen. That's just not football. That's not competitive nature. These guys are professional athletes. They're going to do the best they can to put their best team forward. The coach is not going to make any rash decisions. They're going to make sure that they make the right decision going down. But I'm going to start with the Las Vegas Raiders, 10-7 going up against 10-7 Cincinnati Bengals. My entire life, when Carson Palmer, TJ Houshmandzadeh, you mean say Dylan, along with Chad Johnson were on the Cincinnati Bengals. That's when I love the aerial attack they had. I love that Carson Palmer got the ball out to those guys in space, and they were just beating teams over the top for a long period of time. What I'm going to say, the Cincinnati Bengals have not won a playoff game in 31 years, okay? The last time the Bengals won a playoff game was on January 6, 91. That was the year I was born, 31 years ago. Incredible, right? Now, of course, the Bengals are favored by 5.5 points against the Las Vegas Raiders, and it's in a game where it's probably going to be below 30 degrees. And one thing that the Raiders do not play well in is cold weather. Derek Carr, smaller hands, does not play well in cold weather at all. Whereas the Bengals won 34-13 initially in Las Vegas. Joe Burrow only threw for under 150 yards, but it was still a great game, and they won that game handily. I think this trend is going to continue. Not trying to continue. I think the Bengals are going to break that streak after 31 years. It's a different team. You have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Mixon, Tyler Boyd. You have a bunch of guys that are great on the outside, and of course, you have to be able to get the ball to your receivers. Receivers are just as important as a lot of the different positions on the field these days because of the spread offense. You saw in the national championship, having John Mechie, the Canadian, John Mechie, and having Jameson Williams tear his ACL pretty much in the second quarter, that changed the game dramatically. You need your receivers in the spread offense to be available and still be able to get down the field because they make a world of difference against coverages, especially in the too high and different cover three, so on and so forth. They get it to their spots and they make their catches count. And that's exactly what's going to happen. I think Joe Burrow is used to the cold weather now. Will be able to beat the Las Vegas Raiders. They've had a lot of hope throughout this period of time. They've had a lot of luck on their side as well, too. But this is the time, I believe, where the Bengals will get off the snide and win handily at home against the Raiders. Done with the Raiders. Shout out to Coach Bisicchia. He should be the head coach next year for the Raiders, but it's kind of done right now. Staying in the AFC, all right, we're going to go with the New England Patriots 10-7 versus the 11-6 Buffalo Bills. No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. This game is going to be incredible. It's another two teams that could have potentially been the number one seed in the AFC. Of course, have lost games late. I did have great stretches throughout the year. A lot of people at the start of the year said that the Buffalo Bills would be at the top of the AFC. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. But this game marks the third time since December 6th that these two teams will meet. Of course, the Buffalo Bills won the second meeting 33-21, and the first game was the Patriots winning 14-10 in that win bowl. I'm going to call it the win bowl because the win was super intense. That the Mac Jones only threw pretty much twice that game. The passing game, 700 mile per hour wins. It was ridiculous, right? That game, you cannot count that. They won a great game in New England. Of course, when Stephon Diggs said, you, shut up. I'm not going to get into exactly what he said, but this is going to be a great game. I see in this game playing at home with the Buffalo fans amped up all week. This is their pride. It's a different zone. If you have not gone to a game in Buffalo, I know there's COVID and everything, but everyone's got to go to one of the games in Buffalo. It's different energy, incredible atmosphere. Teams are going to be riding high. They're going to play very well. I see the defense playing without Tre'Davious White. I still see Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Devin Singletary, who's playing incredible right now in front of Zach Moss, in front of Matt Breida. Run the ball, throw the ball, and to get the ball down the field. They must capitalize on third down. That's the big deal for the Buffalo Bills. Must capitalize on third down to get this win. Mac Jones is going to have a tough time against that defense, especially in that environment in his first playoff game. And the Patriots are actually 0-2 in the wild card round for the last 15 years. Think about that. The last 15 years have been the wild card. They haven't really been in the wild card for too much because they've always been the number one seed. With Tom Brady and Bill Belichick just being incredible, the best dynasty in NFL football history. They've been 0-2, and I think that's going to continue because I think the Bills are actually going to play a very, very well-calculated game. So I'm going to say 24-17 for the Bills over the Patriots in Buffalo. The only New York team, by the way. New York Jets, New York Giants are both in New Jersey. The only New York team that is active in the NFL is the Buffalo Bills. Take that in. We're going to go to Philadelphia against the Buccaneers. 13-4 Buccaneers versus 9-8 Philadelphia Eagles. One thing that the Eagles do really well is run the ball. This is their worst matchup you can possibly put together because Tampa Bay, what they do really well is stop the run, right? So straight up, Brady is 1-3 straight up in the games where they're 0-4 against the spread. So the spread too, if you want to consider all that, Tampa Bay are 8.5-point favorites. It's gonna be one of those things. But really and truly, in the first game they had last year on their Super Bowl run, they had a tough time against Tyler Heineke and the Washington football team. But in this game, Jalen Hurts is going to have a really tough time because he doesn't get the ball early enough. They hardly spread. I don't think they spread the ball enough out to their receivers. They run the ball a lot. You're going to have the defense amped up, right? You're going to have White. You're going to have Shaq Thompson. You're going to have Vita Vea, a bunch of these guys going at the ball and stopping the run. And it's going to be a tough game. I don't think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to have a really good time in this game. I don't think they pass the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is the absolute worst matchup for them to have. The past few games, Tampa Bay Buccaneers have not let over 150 yards in the game. If or when the Eagles don't go over 150 yards as well, they don't win the game. It's not going to happen again in this game. They're going to have get down probably early. You're going to have Jalen Hurts have to throw the ball a lot. It's going to be tough for them to come back. But kudos to the Eagles to getting in. Shout out to Sirianni and actually getting them into the playoffs. A lot of people had them written off, and they actually rose to the occasion and played well. So shout out to them. This is probably the dark horse game of the week right here. We have the San Francisco 49ers 10-7 going up against the 12-5 Dallas Cowboys in Jerry's World. This is the problem. Dan Quinn on that team that went to the Super Bowl with the Atlanta Falcons, the head coach, his offensive coordinator was Kyle Shanahan. These two guys on the opposite sidelines, they know exactly what they want to do. They know exactly what they want to do or want to achieve. And the one thing that the Dallas Cowboys do not do well is stop the run. The one thing that the 49ers do really well is run the ball, especially with Deebo Samuel, Eli Mitchell. They do an incredible job doing that. It's going to be incredibly tough for the Dallas Cowboys to win this game if they do not stop the run. And if Dak Prescott can not have, has a great game getting the ball to CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, Amari Cooper, without Michael Gallup now with a torn ACL on that touchdown catch he had last week. Unfortunate, it's going to be really tough for them to win. But this game is, I've been back and forth with this game the entire time. All right, Dallas went 6-0 against NFC East and 6-5 against everyone else. The 49ers had a great game against the LA Rams last week, running the ball, throwing the ball. Jimmy Garoppolo actually played a good game down the stretch, but he throws the ball in the middle way too much. Micah Parsons, Van Der Esch, they have to be able to get to the quarterback. If they don't stop the run, I do not see the Dallas Cowboys win this game, unfortunately. So right now I have the 49ers winning this game in Dallas. May make a mockery of me, of course, but I think they run the ball very well. And the one thing that Dallas Cowboys do not win when they let more than 130 yards in the game on the ground. They do not win. If they cannot stop the run, they do not win. So that's going to be something to watch for sure. This is probably Ben Roethlisberger's swan song right here. We got the 9-7 Pittsburgh Steelers going up against Kansas City, 12-5. Kansas City has dropped games in the start of the year, but have rallied back. The defense is playing a lot better. They're back to that team that has gone to the Super Bowl these past few years. They're back to having that same kind of swagger. Lost a nail-biter in Cincinnati, but they had everything wrapped up at that point. It was one of those games that went out there. Tyreek Hill was really a little bit hobbled in that game, not making so many plays down the field. Patrick Mahomes played well, but it was still Burrow and those boys were just dialed in, and it was one of those games that just had the ball late. Whoever had the ball later would win, and that's exactly what happened with the Cincinnati Bengals. But in this game, the Pittsburgh Steelers need a miracle. They have 55 sacks in the year this year. 22.5 of those sacks are from TJ Watt, and he missed 3 games. So imagine exactly how many sacks he would have had if he stayed the entire year and he was actually healthy throughout the year. Incredible season he's had. They rely on TJ Watt to get to the quarterback, but it's going to be very tough. The O-line for the for the Chiefs is actually playing a lot better these days. They're going to have to double TJ Watt, try to get to Cam Hayward as well too, but it's going to be really tough. This game will be won at the line of scrimmage, and I see the line of scrimmage being dominated by the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to say the Kansas City Chiefs win 30-20 over the Steelers. It's going to take a miracle. Even Ben came on and said that they need a miracle to win. No chance to win. Don't know why he says it. It's Ben Roethlisberger. He's always been questionable his entire career. But shout out to him and his career. He's done a really good job. He's a Hall of Famer. Incredible. He honestly, in many ways, people don't want to give Ben Roethlisberger in that offense their credit. Of course, he's had coaches throughout the year, Mike Tomlin. But they really had the spread offense 7 years ago. And Antonio Brown, right? You got a number of guys. Of course, Antonio Holmes was there at some point, I believe. They had receivers. They had receivers all across the board, and they got the ball out to them. Even with Le'Veon Bell. That team, in my eye, has kind of created the spread offense because Ben Roethlisberger would just sit in the shotgun formation, get the ball, dial the ball up deep to certain guys. In many respects, was at some points the defense was great, and that offense was sometimes my favorite offense to watch because they had a great aerial attack, getting the ball out there and just spreading the ball, similar to what they do right now. But of course, Ben Roethlisberger's arm is not as defined as it was back then, not as strong, but same kind of offense that he operated with, and he did a great job with that. So give them their flowers, giving Ben Roethlisberger his flowers as well too. He's done a great job and a great quarterback, but this is the end. Goodbye. Arizona versus the LA Rams, 11-6. Arizona Cardinals versus the LA Rams, who are 12-5. So both teams have their issues. One issue with the LA Rams is that as soon as OBJ is coming on the team, the production from Matt Stafford, his QBRs went from 136 down to around 100. Arizona always starts out very, very hot in the start of the year. It's happened the past 2 years. And in the middle of the year, Kyler gets hurt, someone gets hobbled, and they always tail off by the end of the year. Always. I've called it at the start of the year. I didn't think I was going to be right, but it happened again. So the Rams are favored by 4 points. This is going to be a tough game because both teams have beat each other away, right? They beat each other at home. They played a few times. The Stafford is 0-3 in playoff games, right? He hasn't won a playoff game, right? Kyler Murray as well, too, needs to be able to play very well and get the ball out. Without DeAndre Hopkins, it might be very tough. DeAndre might play. It's going to be really tough to kind of put it together. I see the Rams actually win this game because they made those moves in the offseason. They need to put it together. OBJ's got to get open. Cooper Kupp is probably the offensive player of the year. Cam Akers is back. You have Sony Michel. Of course, Van Jefferson, you can't forget about him. Tyler Higbee. They got studs. They got some guys that can play in the receiving core. Defensively, you got Jalen Ramsey, Von Miller, Aaron Donald, who's probably the best player in the NFL. His position just dominates. But you can have all the individual players you want. It's how you put it together. It's how you put it together as one, how you actually contribute. Malcolm Floyd's played really well as well. So there's a lot of guys that have contributed, but I see the Rams taking this game, and I see the Arizona Cardinals once again probably even firing Cliff Kingsbury if they don't win this game, because what have you done in the past 3 years? Like, you've made it to the playoffs, you've gotten far, but it always tails off at the end. Like, you're not able to sustain success for a prolonged period of time. It's just what it is at the end of the day, right? It's just really what it is. It's how your team is. You can't do anything about it. Anyways, those are my picks. You can give me your take on exactly what you think will be happening. Put in the comments. Let me know. Text me. Doesn't matter. I'm out here. We're out here. And of course, you got the takes to go with it as well, too. I'm your host, Brandon Graham. This is the First and 10 podcast brought to you by OXP MEDIA. Incredible weekend of football we have at store. We have a podcast listening to right now with 6-Man podcast with Mike Roach. I have one with 9450 podcast with Ilias. Great time all together. If you want to say anything, if you disagree with my takes, hey, I'm usually right. If I'm wrong, I'll own it. Enjoy your football this weekend. And don't forget to keep balling.